In the heart of New York City, a chilling mystery has lingered for decades. On a fateful day in 1998, a young woman named Kristine Kupka vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Today we are going to deep dive into the mysterious case of how a pregnant woman who had been actively preparing for the upcoming birth of her child suddenly disappeared. Could her religious, married boyfriend, who didn't want Kristine to go forward with the pregnancy, be the key to unraveling this haunting mystery? Join us as we explore the perplexing details of Kristine's story, the unanswered questions that linger, and the secrets that may finally reveal the truth about her disappearance. This is the story of Kristine Kupka, a tale of love, secrecy, and the relentless search for answers. It was a crisp autumn day on October 24th, 1998, when Kathy Kupka listened to a voicemail left by her younger sister Kristine. Kristine explained in the message that she would be going with Rudy to his new apartment to help him clean, and she would call her later. The message concerned Kathy, and at the time, she didn't know it would be the last time she heard her sister's voice. Kathy was concerned because Kristine had a turbulent relationship with Rudy, and they only recently begun getting along again. She didn't like that Kristine was going to be alone with Rudy, especially in her condition. She was nearing 9 months pregnant. Kristine had met Rudy when she had taken a chemistry course at her college. Rudy had been a professor. Rudy, whose real name was Darshanan Prasad, had told her that he was single and recently out of a relationship, and the two began dating when the semester concluded. The two were casually dating. Kristine was a full-time student, was the founder of the philosophy club at her school, and working full-time. Rudy taught and was working towards a degree in dentistry in New Jersey. The two saw each other when they had the time, but it didn't seem to be often. She had been drawn to Rudy's shyness. His quiet, conserved nature was opposite to hers. She was a strong-willed woman, and she wasn't afraid to voice her opinions. Her Midwestern background was abandoned when she moved to New York City, and she finally felt that she had found a place where she fit in. The 28-year-old was majoring in philosophy and had plans to go to law school. Kristine was very smart. She had received a full scholarship for her undergraduate degree, but all of her plans took a bit of a turn when Kristine discovered she was pregnant. Though completely unexpected and unplanned, she was overjoyed with the news. She welcomed motherhood, even if she had to go it alone. Rudy wasn't nearly as excited as she was, and Kristine was taken aback when his initial reaction was furious denial. He tried to say that it was impossible for him to be the father, and it must have been someone else's. But when Kristine adamantly insisted that she had been with no one else, his mood flipped immediately. He went from enraged to upset and tearfully told Kristine he was married. He had gotten married when he had told her he went on a business trip, and that it would bring great shame upon his family if he had an illegitimate child. He went on to say he shared a house with his new wife and his parents. His parents were paying for his dental school classes, and his parents would cut him off financially. Rudy immigrated from Ghana. His father was a Hindu priest who would disown him. His family was deeply religious, following a very strict Brahmin discipline in Hinduism. Their religion placed a high value on those with good and virtuous characteristics. Social class within their religion was based on emulating the values taught. An affair being exposed risked not only Rudy's standing in the church, but also the standing of his entire family. What shocked her more was when he insisted that she terminate the pregnancy. He begged her to not continue with it. Kristine decided to terminate the relationship instead. She made it clear to Rudy that she had no intention of ruining his life, but she was keeping the baby, and she expected nothing of him. However, she did plan on naming him on the birth certificate. In the following months, Kristine and Rudy spoke several times about the baby. As time went on, Rudy began to get more forceful about the termination. Kristine began to tell her friends that she felt unsafe around Rudy and feared he would do something to harm her or try to cause a miscarriage. Friends noticed that the once strong and independent woman was increasingly jumpy and anxious. Kristine wanted Rudy to sign an acknowledgement of paternity for the birth certificate. This would give her legal options for both child support and custody of the child if she needed it. After another heated argument about signing the paperwork, Kristine had paged his beeper several times. When the call finally returned, Kristine had been prepared to let Rudy have it, but was shocked when it was a woman on the other end. The woman was Rudy's wife, and he had forgotten his pager at home. She demanded to know who was paging his beeper so much. At first, Kristine lied and said that she needed to speak to Rudy because she was one of his students, but after a while, she admitted why she needed to talk to him. The two women exchanged several more calls. Kristine assured her that she had no intention of involving herself in their marriage, but she did want Rudy to be part of the child's life. The women seemed to bond over Rudy, with the two of them lamenting that Rudy had ruined both of their lives. Eventually the calls stopped, and Kristine didn't hear from Rudy for weeks. Then, out of nowhere, he showed up at Kristine's house. Kristine shared a house with 5 other roommates. He told her this long-winded story that his wife had told his parents. They kicked him out, and he was living with his cousins. At this point, Kristine was 5 months pregnant and was closing in on her 3rd trimester. She had confirmed a birthing centre with the midwife and seemed quite prepared for her upcoming birth. Kristine told her friends she had reservations about his story, but she let him back into her life nonetheless. He began to take a keen interest in the baby, which further surprised Kristine, but she didn't want to rock the boat because she wanted to have a civil relationship with her baby's father. Those who saw the two together said that they were affectionate but not intimate. With Kristine constantly pushing Rudy to reconcile with his wife, she was clear that she didn't want to be with him romantically, but she wanted him to be involved in the baby's life. Though she had been concerned about him harming her earlier in the pregnancy, since she was far too long for any more conversations about terminating, she began to get more comfortable around him. She eventually started to spend more time with him privately, as opposed to in public places. The night before her disappearance, Rudy had called her to let her know that he'd got an apartment. He wanted to show it to her and asked if she could help him clean it. She agreed, and he said that he would pick her up in the morning. Rudy arrived at noon to pick her up, but Kristine had slept in, and he needed to come up to the apartment while she finished getting ready. 2 of her housemates saw Rudy, and they both described him as agitated and said he paced the living room while Kristine was getting ready. Right before Kristine left the house, she left a quick message for her sister, and then she left. Kathy had been expecting a call from her sister that evening, and grew increasingly concerned as the hours ticked on. The following morning, Kathy got a call from one of Kristine's roommates who informed her that Kristine had not come home the night before. Kathy and her husband packed up their 2-year-old son and drove into the city, straight to the 70th precinct. They wanted to immediately place a missing persons report, but the police said because she was an adult, there was no reason to believe she was missing yet. Finally, 3 days later, after Kristine had gone off with Rudy, police finally allowed her sister. Finally, 3 days after Kristine had gone off with Rudy, police allowed her sister to report her missing, and after 7 days they started investigating her disappearance. Kathy, her husband, and several of Kristine's friends dispatched themselves immediately. Most of them had a history of political activism, and the group banded together with military precision and began papering the neighbourhood with flyers. Kathy spoke to several news outlets and put together a candlelit vigil outside Kristine's college. There were thousands of eyes looking for Kristine Kupka. On November 2nd, after Kristine had been missing for 10 days, Rudy finally sat down with law enforcement for an interview with his lawyer, where he was said to have cooperated but had no alibi. His story was that he took Kristine to the mall, he sat in the car while she went shopping, and then he dropped her off at a health food store near her house around 4 p.m. This seemed to contradict what Kristine had said about seeing an apartment. There was no witnesses that could verify his story. He couldn't even say what mall he took her to or what stores she went to. Without any evidence to point to foul play, police were unwilling to do anything more. The NYPD stated that it wasn't illegal to be the last person someone was with, and it wasn't illegal to knock up your girlfriend while you're married. But once again, Rudy and his family had everything to lose. Their status in the social standing within their temple was of the utmost importance. The Kupka family had hired a private investigator to try and find any evidence, but nothing came up. They continue to try to keep her story in the media in the hopes of drumming up a new lead.
You probably have never heard of Kristine Kupka. She also vanished without a trace, but it's been nearly 3 years since she disappeared. Her sister, Kathy Kupka, joins me from New York, along with former New York City detective Gil Alba. Welcome to both of you. First to you, Kathy. October 24th, 1998 was the last time your sister was seen. Where was she? Who saw her? And what happened?
Kristine was at her apartment in Brooklyn, and she was getting ready to leave with the father of her unborn baby. She was 5 months pregnant. So she was actually leaving with him to go see an alleged apartment that he had rented. And then she never returned.
Now, did he come to the house that day, the apartment?
Yeah, he did. He came up to pick her up, and he rang the bell and didn't want to come up, but she wasn't ready yet. So he was kind of forced to come up. But when he did, according to the roommates, he was really nervous, jittery, anxious, walking around, pacing the apartment.
What kind of relationship did she have with the father of her unborn child at the time?
Well, when she became pregnant, she didn't know that he was married, but he was married. And when he found out she was pregnant, he begged her to have an abortion and pleaded with her and was desperately, pushing her to have an abortion. When she wouldn't, he actually kind of disappeared off the scene for a little while, and then beginning of October, about 4 days before she disappeared, he said that his wife had found out, his parents found out, he got thrown out of his house, he needed her, to help him, and he wanted to be involved with the baby, and so on. But then we later came to find out, after my sister disappeared, that none of that was true. His mother didn't know about it, his wife never threw him out, nothing.
Okay, so your sister left on October 24th, 1998, with the father of her child, left the apartment, and was never seen again. Now, at what point after that was she reported missing?
Well, the next day, which was Sunday the 25th, I went to the police. I found out about 10:30 that she had never come home, and I knew immediately that he killed her. Kristine had been afraid of him in the past, so it wasn't, he had spent a lot of time. There was a lot of premeditation here, trying to make her trust him and go with him. So I went to the police the next day, and they said they couldn't really do anything to help me.
Okay, now he has never been charged. He's never been arrested on it. Did you ever ask him what happened to your sister?
Yeah, my husband and a friend of ours went and actually confronted him, and that's how we found out he still lived at home. And he said, "How should I know? Go file a missing persons report." And that was the extent of anything that he said to me. He's never spoken to me, called me, nothing.
Gil, why is this unsolved?
Well, we don't have enough evidence right now. Just like the Chandra Levy case, the evidence is not there, probable cause is not there, but we have a lot of confidence that this case is going to be solved, and hopefully within, let's say, a year or so. I mean, I don't know how long it takes, but we're very confident that it's going to be solved because we've been doing a lot of work on this case.
But, Gil, you say you're very confident. It's been almost 3 years. I must tell you that, I don't have a terrific amount of confidence. What gives you this confidence? There's no body. She hasn't been heard from in almost 3 years. No one has been arrested. What gives you this confidence?
Well, I've been working on this case almost every day. I've done other cases similar to this. Kathy and myself probably interviewed close to 800 to 1,000 people. We interviewed everybody in his family. We go out almost every day and try to get as much publicity as possible, just like the publicity is going on here. I kind of agree with the publicity and hope it keeps on going. But I know every intricate part of this case and I have a vision of when it's going to end and how it's going to end. And just like I have somewhat of a vision about this case.
All right, you talk about a vision. Do you have any evidence connecting anyone to any crime? We don't have a body. We don't know if she walked out, although I presumably Kathy would think it's unusual she would just walk off. But, do you have any evidence that actually suggests a crime and that somebody did it?
We have no smoking gun, as you say. We do have people calling me all the time. People call me rather sometimes than they call the police. They'll call me, and close family relatives would tell me what kind of a pattern this particular subject has, which is his name is Rudy Prasad. Now, for myself to focus on one individual, or for the police to, like the D.C. police, to focus on one individual, they're not going to get the peripheral information that they want. So that's really not helping their investigation. That's why they're looking at everything, and I looked at everything, and now my focus is totally on one individual, and I believe that he had help, and I'm after the other second individual also.
Kathy, how did your sister meet the father of her child?
He was an adjunct lab instructor at Brute College, where Kristine was attending school.
And how long had they been, had some sort of friendship or relationship?
Well, they were very friendly and very flirtatious throughout the whole semester, and then they started seeing each other the end of May.
Kathy, I assume you're dissatisfied with the police work in this case.
Well, I was dissatisfied because, oftentimes, like the same with Anna Marie Chiavetti in Staten Island and Samia Kiki in Queens, the police aren't quick to jump on it because most people just come back. But I think it's really important that they have training and they understand how to listen to a case like Gil did. Like Gil came in, he listened to everything, and he was able to ascertain the important facts and know it was an emergency situation. Whereas the police that listened to me at the 70th precinct the first night, or the second night, I'm sorry, they just said, not much we can do. So they didn't start investigating until the media became involved. And
Kathy,
that's a shame because a lot of times the media won't become involved. And that's really sad because there are a lot of people in the same situation as the Levys, and they're not getting any help whatsoever.
Kathy, what's it like to wait?
It's horrible. Every day is horrible because it's always in your mind and you're always stressed about it. And it affects your entire life. It really does. And I know other family members and not only my own, but other people that are missing I'm very friendly with. And we all have the same feelings. It's like dread, it's hope, it's despair, it's incredible nervousness, depression. It's really horrible, truly horrible.
Kathy, do you have any hope or expectation that your sister is alive?
No, none. But I know that we're going to find her, and I absolutely know we're going to find her. And I'm really confident about that. Every bone in my body knows that we're going to find her. So. And I know that Rudy's going to finally get what he deserves, and also I know that the family members, like Gil alluded to, that they do talk to us. People have told Gil confidentially, and we just know that it's going to happen.
Gil, how can you hide a body?
You know what I did on this case? This is after a period of time. I took a map and I figured out what could happen. Now, this individual came and picked up Kristine Kupka, and what did he do? He put it in a car and he drove her someplace. Now what could have happened to her? Did he kill her, and where did he kill her? And then where did he hide the body? Now, for somebody to hide a body, you have to be familiar with where you're going and what you're doing.
When we're running out of time, bottom line is you can hide a body.
Definitely. You could definitely hide a body.
All right. Kathy Kupka and Gil Alba, thank you very much for joining me this evening.
In 2010, when a cousin of Rudy vacated a plumbing store in Queens, the NYPD sought permission to dig up the basement floor. The new owner agreed, and although the cadaver dog indicated the presence of human remains, they found nothing. Rudy is now a dentist in Florida. He and his wife live there with their children. He has refused to address any of the accusations, both with the police and the media. He and his wife have maintained that they don't know what happened to Kristine or his unborn child, nor did they seem to care. Kathy has devoted her life to finding justice for Kristine. She firmly believes that her sister was murdered that night, maintaining that she had everything to live for. She had numerous plans of both immediate and distant future. She was excited for the birth of her child, for her future career, and to do it all on her own. In the enduring enigma surrounding the disappearance of Kristine Kupka, the passage of time has failed to dim the intrigue of her story. Since that fateful day in 1998, her vanishing act has remained a haunting riddle, with one prevailing theory pointing fingers at the only person in her life that held any reason for wanting her to disappear. The suspicion that Rudy may have played a role in her disappearance, driven by fear or family disgrace, adds layers of complexity to an already mystifying case. It's a tale where love and secrecy intersect, leaving us with more questions than answers. As we reflect on Kristine's story, we're reminded that some mysteries refuse to fade into obscurity. Her memory lingers, a stark testament to the unyielding pursuit of truth that keeps her story alive. With each passing year, the hope for answers remain alive, and the determination to unveil the truth persists. In the end, the case of Kristine Kupka stands as a reminder that even after decades, there are stories untold, secrets unrevealed, and justices yet to be served. we hold on to hope that someday the pieces of this perplexing puzzle will come together, shedding light on what truly happened to this missing New York woman. Until then, we remain committed to seeking answers and keeping the memory of Kristine Kupka alive in our hearts and minds. If you have any information about this case or thoughts to share, please don't hesitate to comment below. And if you found this investigation intriguing, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and leave us a like to support more content like this. Thank you for joining us on this journey through a decades-old cold case. Together, we may someday uncover the truth behind Kristine Kupka's disappearance.